I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning, but hi and welcome to Learning for the Life in the UK test part 9, the Anglo-Saxons part 2, while doing wrist training. Participating in the physical exercises is at your own risk, and I'm using this just under fair use for educational purposes, and we are on page 13 and 14 and maybe 15. So, we had that the Britons fought against the invaders after the Romans had left in 410. The invaders were the Jutes, the Angles, and the Saxons. But in 600 they established kingdoms, mainly in the part which is today England. And one of their kings was buried in Sutton Hoo in Suffolk, with armors and treasures inside of a wooden ship, which was then covered in a mold of earth. Yes, that's it. And parts of the west of Britain, including much of what is now Wales and Scotland, remain free of Anglo-Saxon rule. Okay, so here we have Eastern England. There's north, south, west and east. Here in Eastern England there was Boudicca, the queen of the Iceni, who had fought against the Roman invasion in 43 under Emperor Claudius. And now in the western parts of Britain, in Scotland, Wales and in Wales, Scotland, west of England, including much of what is now Scotland too. In Wales, Wales and Scotland remain free of Anglo-Saxon rule. Here's nothing written to Northern Ireland or Ireland. We take what is written here. So, what is now Wales and Scotland remain free. So Scotland not only remained free from the Roman invasion, and the Romans even built a Hadrian's Wall to keep the Picts out, but it remained free from the Anglo-Saxon rule. Let's start with the wrist exercises. We're having the hands next to us with the hands formed to fists, and we're bringing these fists down and up. And we're having 3 rules. The first rule is if there's pain, we're stopping immediately. The second one is that we're going only as far as we can go with a little bit of effort. And the third one is that we're stopping before we're reaching our potential. And that would be, now we're doing directly the next one. Now these hands from the fists coming to the inside of it, to the outside. So one of his Anglo-Saxon kings is buried in Sutton Hoo, inside of a wooden. He was never wooden ship written, but it was out of wood. I'm pretty sure it was made out of wood, inside of a ship with armor, treasure, and with a mound of earth upon it, and much of what is now parts of West Britain, much of what is now Wales and Scotland remain free. And a little bit back to the monuments. So the farmers who came to Britain 6,000 years ago, whose ancestors were from Southeast Europe and who started farming there, they left monuments and built houses. And one of the monuments is Stonehenge, that is in Wiltshire. And another monument would be, yes, for Boudicca on Westminster Bridge statue in London. And was another monument. Let's take the other, maybe it was just the other thing. So, and Scarborough, I listened to it. It was not pronounced every time the same time. There was a little bit in the Bray, there was a little bit in it in the Bray, but it's pretty much Scarborough. In Orkney, and Orkney is an island north of Scotland. On Orkney, off the north coast of Scotland, I luckily know that Orkney is an island, because just to know it from off the north coast of Scotland, to know that it is on an island, might be a tough job. Scarborough on Orkney, off the north coast of Scotland, is the best preserved prehistoric village in Northern Europe. Yes, here was Maiden Castle. A very impressive hill fort can still be seen at Maiden Castle. So the people who were craft workers and warriors and who settled together in little groups and sometimes had to defend themselves, their cities. Sometimes defended sites called hill forts. So the settlements were sometimes directly settled in hill forts, and sometimes they defended them. And one which is still be seen today is Maiden Castle. Of course, not in the way it was when it was 3,000 years ago in the Iron Age, but it can be still visited today. No picture there, but I looked at the picture. It's basically in a great lawn area, but there is a hill, I guess a naturally hill. But oftentimes by these hill castles, there's more earth put upon it to make the hill even larger, because these hills are not mountains. They're hills of 30 meters, 50, maybe 100 meters or something. And on top of it, there are made little walls out of earth to make it even better to defend. So it's on top of a hill, and there are multiple walls in front and to the sides, and in the middle the people are living on a platform on top of a hill, basically. So hill, what was it called? Maiden Castle is the name of it, which is in Dorset, in the county of Dorset. We don't have a map. I don't know where Dorset is, or where Suffolk is, or Sutton Hoo, which is in Suffolk. But there is Maiden Castle, a very impressive community. It was called Hill Forts, but it is Maiden Castle. We have not started a bit with part 2. The Anglo-Saxons were not Christians when they first came to Britain, but during this period, missionaries came to Britain to preach about Christianity. Okay, in the 3rd and 4th centuries, still under Roman rule, I'm looking at it now. The first Christian communities began to appear. So there's not written of if it's maybe through the Roman Empire, through influence or something. I maybe should not tell about it, otherwise that is only remembered. The first Christian community started to appear. And they were not Christians. Now we are after 600, so more than 200 years later. But missionaries from Europe came, so people who, let's look at the words they used. Missionaries came to Britain to preach about Christianity. So preaching is basically a way of talking, but it's more like it's done in a church. So to tell the people about Christendom and about Jesus Christ and the stories of the Bible. And the next exercise, now we're having flat hands, and we're turning these flat hands to the inside and to the outside. And the next exercise, the pancake flipper, again flat hands, and we're turning the hands up to the sky and down. We're going directly through with the next 2 exercises, the T-Rex in the morning, hands down, up, and the T-Rex in the gym. If you don't have a tennis ball, just do it without one. You're pressing onto the tennis ball and releasing it again, and pressing again, and releasing, and we're pressing again, and we're releasing on the other side, pressing again, and releasing, we are pressing again, and the last time, we're pressing, and we're down to the T-Rex in the gym. So the Anglo-Saxons, who came as part of the Utes, the Angles and the Saxons, after the Romans had left in 410 and invaded Britain, even though there was resistance, started to build kingdoms, the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms in mainly England. Maybe I shouldn't talk so fast. In England. And they were not Christians, even though there were already some Christians in England during the 3rd and 4th century had Christian communities appeared. But missionaries came and preached about, what was it said about? It was about Christianity. Missionaries from Ireland spread the religion in the north. From Ireland. Maybe there were already, so if in Britain, and we had learned that Britain includes Northern Ireland. 2 today, if it's Northern Ireland 2000 years ago. Maybe Ireland was already Christianized. So that now, 300 years later, in the 6th, 7th century or something, missionaries from Ireland could go to the north of Britain, which would be Scotland, and preach there. I guess nobody's really paying attention to these middle sentences. So missionaries from Ireland spread the religion in the north. Maybe that is just, if you just read over it, more or less understand that there were missionaries coming and spreading the religion. We don't actually should understand when, where came from, when to what, and did what exactly. Missionaries from Ireland spread the religion in the north. The most famous of these were St. Patrick, so that is pretty important. The most famous of these, yes, we just want to talk about St. Patrick and not about the actual movements, I guess. The most famous of these was St. Patrick, who became the patron saint of Ireland. See page 68. So this is gonna happen again. For more about patron saints and Saint Combua, who founded a monastery on the island of Iona off the coast of what is now Scotland. That is too much. We're having even 2 sentences more or something. We're gonna make a third part about the Anglo-Saxons, so that we can do now some exercises. And that is the cautious Big Bang. We're placing the fingertips of one hand on top of the fingernails of the other. And we're opening that hand, so we're pressing a bit onto the fingernails. Opening, closing, and now we are switching. And we are opening and closing. Now to the frog testing the water temperature. We're bringing the hands down with spread fingers. We're bringing them up again with strong fists. So we're pressing with the fists together. We're going down and we're spreading the fingers. And we're coming up and we're spreading the fingers, making strong fists. Now down and we are flaring or spreading the fingers. And last time up. And strong fists. Now to the quadrangular castle architect. Both hands with fists out and we're bringing the fists together. Up. And in the middle, now we're changing the direction, down. And to the crab, anxious to a fever, the hand at the side, hands from to the fist down, and we're pressing against them. And we outside, carefully here, very carefully. This is really just a little bit of force. And with the other side, hand with fist down and pressing slightly against them. And pulling slightly. We're done. Just a bit stretching. Straight and long arm. Make a little bend. This is the brachioradialis. Set a little bit in, on, and go with the fingers with moderate pressure over the extension to the toe muscle. Straight arm, little bend, set on, and go forward. So we're having 1 minute 30 left. Let's look to the part until St. Patrick is sneak peeked for page 68. The Anglo-Saxons were not Christians when they first came to Britain, but during this period, missionaries came to Britain to preach about Christianity. Did they say something about Europe? There's nothing written about Europe, so I wanted to read it again exactly. Came to Britain to preach about Christianity. Now Britain does include Ireland, so they had to come from out of Ireland. The most famous of missionaries from Ireland spread the religion in the north. Yeah, what does it mean from Ireland, and they spread in the northern Ireland? Because it's also a bit weird to say people were coming from Ireland to the north, to Scotland. It's a bit strange way to say north of Ireland is Scotland, even though it is geographically true. The most famous of these was St. Patrick, of his missionaries from Ireland spreading the religion in the north. who would become the patron saint of Ireland. So Saint Patrick became the, I don't know how it's pronounced because that word happens in a lot of languages. Patron, I think patron saint of Ireland. For more about patron saints, and Saint Columba, who founded a monastery on the island of Iona. I don't have time yet. I thank you very much for part 3. Thank you very much, and until next time.